Canada's mission in Iraq, otherwise known as Operation Impact, is scheduled to end next month. But the government has hinted at extending that mission. Sergeant Andrew Doiron's death, however, raises new questions about what role, if any, Canada should have in Iraq. With more on this, I'm joined by retired Canadian Forces Colonel Tony Battista. He is in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
Thank you very much, Johanna. Thank you.
Give me a sense of what sorts of conversations would be happening behind closed doors between civilian overseers, ministers, etc., and military personnel now that we know there is this discrepancy from Iraq.
Well, first of all, if I may, Suhana, I'd like to extend heartfelt condolences, of course, to the family and friends of Sergeant Andrew Doiron and a speedy recovery for the other 3 soldiers. This on behalf of the Conference of Defense Associations and the CDA Institute.
Very kind of you. I'm sure it's much appreciated.
Thank you. With regards to your question, of course, as we all know now, there are at least 2 investigations ongoing. One, I suspect, is conducted by the National Investigative Service, which is a specialized unit of the military police of the Canadian Armed Forces. And the other one, of course, will be a board of inquiry to determine the facts and how to move forward once those facts are known.
Civilians might look at this fact of 1 dead Canadian soldier differently than the military. I don't know if maybe that's not a fair statement, because every death would probably hit everybody in a heartfelt manner, and you've just given your condolences. But for a civilian, we look at it, we think, well, this is not acceptable. How do you look at it?
Well, of course, it's not acceptable. Whether it's friendly fire, fratricide, or an act of war, we all understand that. Of course, none of this, the death or the injuries of any of our fellow soldiers or Canadians is acceptable. In this particular case, we need to understand more of what really happened on the ground. I have no reason to believe that the Canadian version, as we have heard it so far, is in doubt. After all, the soldiers, the unit of the Special Forces soldiers did, according to our sources, provide adequate information to the Kurdish forces where they were and where they were coming back from the various checkpoints. So these things have to be obviously established by the investigation now in progress.
Would it be extremely horrible, even more horrible for the family, for Canadians watching this story unfold, if it turned out to be a miscommunication, that somebody didn't know that this plan, this protocol was in place? I mean, how does that sound? How does that happen?
Very difficult to understand if it did happen. I doubt very much that would be the case, but we will see. Having said that, in any military operation, we often refer to the fog of war. We understand that certain miscommunications might occur, but I doubt very much that our own forces would not have had a plan in place and not advised the friendly forces in the area.
So, does it matter at the end, after the investigations, where the finger of blame gets pointed? Because it doesn't change anything, or does it?
Well, it really doesn't change much. The fact of the matter is that, unfortunately, Sergeant Andrew Doiron is no longer with us, and that 3 Canadian Armed Forces soldiers are currently recovering from their injuries. Those are facts that will not be changed by any of the findings. What will be important, however, is to ensure that we understand the procedures that were followed, and of course that the forces in a location, friendly forces, of course, would learn from the mistakes that have occurred.
Colonel, let me ask you if you think this would have an effect on those discussions about extending the mission, and what sort of mission it will be, and how you think it could affect those discussions.
Suhana, I don't think it will have a direct effect. I think that the Canadian government would want to continue providing our support to the US-led coalition against this extremist group. I think Canadians in general would agree with that. What I think was now happening, of course, is that the discussion has taken new heights. Of course, there's much more awareness, much more sensitivity. The fact of the matter is that we've lost one of our own, and these discussions, these sensitivities are absolutely natural.
One final question for you, Colonel. After the minister came back, Foreign Affairs Minister Rob Nicholson, after he came back from Iraq, you gave a quote to a reporter, and you said that Ottawa could consider providing more intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance assistance, could also consider a modest increase in the number of special forces troops now serving in Iraq. Do you think that is still the case?
I think so. I don't believe that there's any serious consideration at this time to provide ground troops, Canadian ground troops there. I think that would be well too premature, and I don't think that's really necessary at this time. But I think we could provide a modest increase in intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets, as we already have some there. Of course, continuing with the air campaign, and obviously a modest increase in special forces, or at least maintaining the status quo with regards to special forces.